Marriage and money. Man, those are two powerful words. And of course, for those of us who are married, we know that money is a huge component in our relationship. We're going to break down some ideas for you and maybe give you some helpful suggestions on today's episode of The Current Temp. Thank you for joining me. I'm Joey Solopek. First and foremost, shout outs to Lexus of Memphis. As always, you guys know how we feel about them, their product, the men and women, the service, and really, I'll go a country mile for good service, as I know you will.
I will.
You brag about their service all the time.
I love their service.
They're just unbelievable. That's a true testimony. And also to Equity Management Company, emctn.com. In fact, just today I saw several emails from you listeners who have gone to that website and sent us some notes. So we appreciate that. And if you got any questions, Bill and I and the entire team, happy to help you, which brings me to this man, Bill Gerner, my frequent co-host, a senior portfolio manager. He has been in the investment game for many, many years and one of the co-owners at EMC. All right, Bill, this one is titled Young Married People and Money. And I got to tell you, as I put up this next slide, 31% of married people, and I would say that's conservative, say that money is a major cause of conflict. So here's the critical question. How do young people build a life together without letting money ruin their relationship?
That's a good question.
It's a big one.
I don't really have a pat answer, but I think one thing, no matter what age you are, you have to communicate and you have to have a plan to handle the money between two people. Maybe both of them work, maybe one works, and how do you spend it, and a lot of issues there. So
we got a lot to get through today, and so we're just going to dive in. Let's ask some key questions. These are things you and I have spoken about. I know that you've spoken with your wife. I've spoken with my wife. In a marriage, who should control the money?
I think they have to communicate, and they have to decide who's going to control the money, pay the bills, when things are due, what you're going to buy. And it's just, when you first get married, I think that is a big issue because, you want to figure it out, but you have to do that together. And I know when my wife and I got married, I'm used to reconciling numbers and 8 digits. I mean, right. I've done a lot of that through my career. And so when we got married, we had one checkbook. And back when we got married, you didn't have carbons when you wrote the check.
Yeah.
And so it was a total disaster. If either one of us forgot to list a check and I was trying to balance, I'd pull my hair out and she couldn't remember what she wrote the check for and I couldn't remember. So, and we both worked. So we decided to each have a checkbook.
Was that a good thing or a bad thing?
It was a good thing for me because I could balance mine in 2 minutes, and my wife, Beth, it'd take me a little longer, but we made it through that. But we've gone full circle. So now we have one checkbook. And about 5 years ago, I turned all the finances over to her because if something happened to me, she would know where the money is. She would know the bills, the insurance, the car tax. As you know, on and on, It never ends. So that's how it worked for us. But, other people may have a different plan.
Well, let me say this. One of the points here says who controls the money. Control is a tough word because you should both have a say-so. I don't want to say you're giving one person more control over the other. And I'll lead into one of the second points, which you just kind of touched on, is separate or joint accounts. I believe in one account because... And this, to me, gets down into a deep question. When people get married, it seems like there's been a trend to not fully commit. And I've seen this in people I've worked with over the years who have had separate accounts. And as I would talk to them and we would talk about deep subjects, I learned very quickly the husband and wife weren't on the same page about a lot of things. And often those marriages didn't make it. And I remember thinking, I wonder if separate check accounts had something to do with that, where they kept their lives separate. One of them paid bills of these bills and the other one paid the other bills, but they never came together. And that always, and again, every family's different. Every relationship is different. Something may be right for them that's not right for me. But I just remember thinking, when you get married, it's burn the ships and we move forward. We don't go back. And so having separate accounts, unless there was just a specific reason, just invited problems when you should be working on it together. Any thoughts on that?
Well,
Because you did both.
I did both, but even though we had separate accounts, we communicated and we worked together on that. And it worked fine for us, and it made our marriage easier on both of us at that point in time. So, and it's no pat answer to this.
Right.
And how do you and your wife do it?
No, you're right. There's no pat answer. We still work through it daily. I have the blessing of having a frugal wife who is thrifty and shops to get the deal and thinks that's a huge blessing, because not everybody's wired that way, which is another one of our points here. When you get married, are you a spender or a saver? And fortunately, I think we're both savers, and that's helped us dramatically over the years. But not every relationship is that way. In fact, we see clients all the time who come in, husband and wife, who say, I got to admit, I spend too much. One of them will say that. And so I think you touched on this in your first answer, that really the trick is communicating so that you both love each other. We know that money's an issue. Everybody knows that your key issues are sex, health, and money when it comes to a marriage. And so money being so critical, if you're not talking about it, you're leading yourself to a problem.
Well, I think it's how you control the money. If you're a wife and your husband goes and plays golf every weekend and spends money, and then you want to buy a blouse and he says no, then friction picks up pretty quickly.
And
there.
resentment.
So I think you have to let a woman have some control over the money and not feel like she's tied down 100% of the time. Or a man.
Or a woman, right. Or a man, because quite often the woman is more responsible and wants to pay the bills. And so there has to be some type of balance, which really leads to our last point. If you're being secretive with your money, is that cheating? In other words, is it financially being unfaithful if you've got secret credit cards, hidden purchases, undisclosed debt? Because through the years, I've heard couples who have had friction talk about, I have this money hidden, they don't know about it. Thoughts on that?
Well, the reason I think that people hide it is because they may not have full trust in their spouse. They may say, I think something's going on and I need a nest egg in case it is, where I have some money that I can, live my life on. So I think there's a lot of reasons that they hide money, but I think the number one reason is trust.
Well, I'm going to jump in and say...
You agree with that?
No, well, I do agree. And again, you've heard both of us say, Bill, you and I both said, every family's different, every relationship is different. But that being said, if you're keeping a secretive account, that's a sign that you got a deeper problem, like you just said, whether it's trust or past problems that you're still worried about, which now to me gets to this. If you've got a problem with secret credit cards or a stash account, you really ought to consider, and I say this in full love and honesty, healthy therapy, whether it's through a pastor, a minister, a licensed therapist, because you need to get to the bottom of whatever those trust issues are.
And I think people in this situation that they don't have full trust and they don't have financial, a good financial background, where do they go for advice? If one goes to their parent and the other one goes to their parents, that's really an accident waiting to happen.
It's tug of war.
It's a tug of war. And, well, my mother said this or my dad said this, and then you go back and forth.
Yeah.
But one thing, when my wife and I, like every young married couple, we were struggling, I look back and it was kind of fun working through the issues because we weren't combative. We were trying to solve the problems.
You're both working together.
That's right.
Yeah, and that's a great way to look at it. Okay, so let's talk about that. That's a perfect lead-in. When you're building something together, let's start with a home. And this has been a hot button topic. Do you rent or do you buy? And I've seen actually arguments for both ways here recently. I actually saw an argument recently that said it might be better for you financially to rent because, number one, you don't have all the overhead. But this article was saying you can do more with your investments than what the house is accruing right now. But I'm a long-term believer in buying over renting, but not everybody can afford that. What do you think?
No, they can't, but I think that goes all the way back to when people go to school. They don't know what equity is. If you do have a house and you're careful buying it at a good price, and have a good location, over time you're going to make money on that house. When you just pay the rent, that's money down the drain.
Right.
And plus, if you rent a house, it's better than an apartment because at least you have some privacy, I think.
I'm pro renting houses. I will say this recent article made a lot of points about how much money we spend on houses, but I still stand by buying a house when you can. Student loan debt's another one. I am having 3 kids who are just about done with college. Your 3 kids all went to great colleges. I'm kind of changing my opinion a little bit on whether college is necessary. I think colleges today are too expensive. I don't know that kids are coming out prepared for the world. And I'm starting to believe more and more that if a child has an aptitude, it may be a better decision for them to go straight into a business. In fact, I saw an article yesterday about a girl who did not go to law school and got picked right out of high school to go intern at like a legal firm, because even companies are now saying maybe you don't have to have a college degree. I think we're starting to see some changes because college is too expensive.
It is too expensive, and I think the reason this has occurred is because there's so many different majors when you go to college. If you're going to major in basket weaving and spend all this money, then you're right.
You'll never get a return.
You'll never get a return. But if you go into accounting, attorney, or something professional,
medicine,
I think it all boils down to what you major in.
Yeah.
But here's the deal. If you're a big corporation and you have a job opening and you put it out and you get stacks of applications, you have one stack with college degrees, you have one stack of people that didn't go to college. And more than likely, in my opinion, the ones with the college degrees that went through the 4 years has a better chance of getting that job than the other.
I agree with
the ones
that.
that didn't go.
I agree with that, and I still think we're going to see a surge in people bypassing college because right now you've got a wide open job. If somebody right now, if I had kids who were like good with their hands, sharp minds, HVAC, thinking about an HVAC business, you can't find good plumbers and electricians now because they're all busy. I mean, that's a wide open field. Starting your own business is I agree. I think there's definitely benefits to college, but I'm against the prices.
Well, I think we need to say why the prices are so high. I mean, school, you've got a blackboard or guy standing up teaching the class, but this happened all on the GI Bill, and it happens when you have student loans. As long as they can get the money or borrow it, the schools knows the government's going to help pay for it.
That's right.
They're going to raise prices.
That's what they do.
And it is absolutely insane what these kids are paying to go to school.
You're right. The government subsidized this for colleges, and meanwhile, these colleges have multi-billion-dollar war chests, and they're still getting easy loans from the government. That's a whole nother show. I didn't mean to go down that road, but I'm against heavy student loan debt, and I think you are as well.
Yeah, I have facilitated marriage matter for individuals, and you're right, Joey, with the way you started this. The finances are a problem. The people, the male or the female, feeling free to buy something without permission or say no, instead of working together. And I think another thing that hurts marriages is when one of the spouses does all the carpooling and the other one doesn't help. Well, I'm going to go play golf today, so I can't help you, honey, drive the kids around.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of issues, but the good news is marriage does matter, and the people that get married, they need to work through these issues, and they may need some help, and there are, we can help them or other people, but there are solutions to these problems.
I think that's a perfect lead into our final question, which is, if we took money out of the equation, would we still have the same marriage problems? Now, that's a tricky question. If fixing the money issue is critical, but like you just said, marriage is tough enough by itself without money. You've got health, you've got relationships. I think this is a key one, though. I think we've got to focus on the money aspect, and then you can work the other things in as well. I mean, I just think that, and like you said, there's help out there. There's firms that advise like we do.
Right, and I think one of the major problems people of all ages get into is using their credit card.
Yeah.
Because that if you don't pay that credit card off, that's 22 to 24% interest that you get charged.
More debt.
And it goes up. The other thing that I think is a real problem is people get trapped into having so many monthly expenses, like maybe, I don't know, a garden club, magazine club,
DoorDash,
et cetera, et cetera. But here's what I really found interesting, and I'm not really picking on Tesla, but I want to say this. I looked, did some research. What's cheaper, buying a hybrid car or buying a Tesla? Well, it costs you every 1,000 miles on a Tesla about $42 a month. On a hybrid car, it costs you $67. But here's what they don't tell you at Tesla. They have a monthly fee of $100 that you have to pay to get updates for the software. So that's $1,200 a year. So if you're getting 36, 37 miles per gallon on a hybrid car, Tesla is twice as expensive as that hybrid, but just because of that fee for the software.
Yeah, it has not gotten economical yet. I hope someday in the future it will, and that everything lines up. But I agree, it's one of the many things we need to think about. Any final thoughts for us before we clip? Because we went a little longer than we normally do, but there was a lot to cover here. Any final marriage thoughts?
Yeah, I wrote down about 20 things, but I won't cover them all right now. I really had a list solving these problems. But I think if you can, I think one important thing, which you've talked about a lot, Joey, is saving. Mm-hmm. If you or your wife work with a company in a 401k plan and they have matching, you need to figure out to put as much as you can with that matching.
It's free money.
That's free money. If they match dollar for dollar, that's 100% return.
Yeah.
And you may have to give up something to do that, but it's worthwhile. And the challenge is when you get married, it's not all bad. I mean, finance is something you work together on. You have a plan, you develop it, you try to get emergency fund, you try to save through your 401k, and you try to be happy and move on in life. And it will work if you work together, in my opinion.
I think that's a great way to end this, and that is, we know money causes friction. However, when you're in a relationship, when you're married, working through those problems makes your relationship better. It makes it richer. You come out on the other side, you've been through things together, and so you're seasoned, and you actually can look back and go, look what we came through and how we got better.
Yeah. If either spouse, male or female, feels trapped on trying to go buy a Coca-Cola or whatever it may be, if they feel trapped and they can't do that without permission, I think that creates a
That's
huge
not healthy.
problem. No.
All right, we believe there are positive solutions, and of course, if you've got questions, we want to hear about it. You can go to emctn.com. That's our website, and send us a question or a thought or a comment, or you can also just email us right here at the show, thecurrenttemp@gmail.com, because we know two things: marriage and finance matter. Boom. All right, friends. I love that every single time. We're glad that you were here with us this week. We hope that helped. We'll have more great information for you right here next week on The Current Temp.